All right, back on the Tesla, the air conditioning, the recovery procedure. So I've completely recovered the refrigerant out of the Tesla. I've recovered 640 grams out of this 2018 Model S. And just the recovery machine without a vacuum pump has pulled it down to 947 microns. And as you can see, the time is clicking by. I'm doing a standby test to see if there's a rise, if there's any refrigerant trapped in the system and it's going to boil off. That would be a waste of refrigerant, and that's refrigerant unnecessarily put into the atmosphere. So the EPA here in the United States, for those people outside of the United States and don't know, require you to pull down refrigerant to a negative 15 inches mercury vacuum. I go far and beyond that. I go all the way down, and I'm usually below 1,000 microns. I'm actually going to turn it on again. But what I'm doing is a standing test. So we're going into minute 6 right here. And you see my micron gauge is flat. It's actually, there's one little peak there and there was one little peak right there. You see that little, oops, see that little peak that pops up right there? That was just a little burst of like refrigerant that was probably stuck in the insulated compressor motor with the oil down there, or some other area where refrigerant was trapped in the oil, and it like bursted out like a bubble. And a micron meter is so sensitive, it could read that. And so we started out, let's see, where do we start out? 938 microns, and we're at 949 microns, and we're into this going up to minute number 7. So I'm thoroughly satisfied that the system is completely drained of refrigerant. This is YF refrigerant, so at $207 a pound, you want to get every ounce you can and not waste it. But now here comes the difference between a hack shop and a real shop. It's under a deep vacuum. So what does a technician normally do? They need to remove the things. You would normally just take off the bolts, open it up, and the humidity right now is about 80% humidity right now. So that humidity would get sucked into the system that has just freshly been recovered, and it's cold. The motor is cold and it has a few ounces of oil in it. And all the components, where the liquid refrigerant gathers, like inside this plate heat exchanger, if I had an infrared camera on it, you would see it's cold. Any of the plate heat exchangers inside the bottom of the evaporator, it got cold inside there and there's oil in there. So when you open up a line and you hear that sucking sound of air going in, the minute that air that is hot and humid strikes the cold metal on the inside, it instantly flashes into liquid water droplets, and that goes directly into the POE oil that is used in this high voltage electric heat pump and contaminates the entire system. You're not going to get that out. The new receiver dryer is not going to get that much water out. So that's where you break out the dry nitrogen. And now I'm going to purge in dry nitrogen in the system to bring it up to roughly 0 to 1 or 2 psi, just positive atmospheric pressure. So when a technician opens up the line to remove and replace parts, no atmospheric air gets pushed in, and the technician takes their little rubber plugs on the metal lines and presses in a little rubber plug to plug off and not let no atmospheric air inside the systems to contaminate the ester oil that is highly hygroscopic. All right, go off to the next one, and as you can see, there was another little blip on the dot right there. I'll turn this on one more time and then throw it over to nitrogen, because when you spend $100,000 on a car, the last thing you want is a hack shop working on it. All right, see you. Keep the heat pumps going, because remember, we're not air conditioning anymore. We're talking about high voltage electric motor heat pumps. See you.